The elevator doors had barely closed when I saw the message. Just 2 short lines, but they squeezed my chest like a punch straight to the heart. Suite 904, same as last time. Cannot wait. The sender's name appeared at the bottom of my wife's phone screen. Adrian Cole. And in that exact moment I knew my life had cracked. My name is Ethan Ward. For more than 11 years, people have always said I was lucky. A house by the sea, a stable job in cybersecurity, a smart, charming wife who worked for the biggest charity foundation in the city. They looked at my family and talked about us like a model marriage worth admiring. But real life rarely looks like the picture people draw. The moment the phone screen lit up on the cold stone countertop in the kitchen, my world stopped being a gentle story. It became a play that stank of betrayal and tested the patience of a man who had been underestimated in his own home. Rachel was showering upstairs, the sound of running water steady as if nothing was wrong. In the kitchen, the smell of baked salmon and red wine blended together, creating the feeling of a perfect evening. I stood there, staring at the words on the screen. No trembling, no outburst. Just one long breath pressed tight in my chest, as if my soul had stepped back to watch everything from a distance. I put the phone back exactly where it had been, poured a glass of wine, and let that burning liquid slide down my throat. Outside, the sea was calm. Inside, I was a storm. People usually think I am gentle, mild, just some tech guy. They do not know the rest of me. The cold part, the patient part, that knows how to wait for the right moment. My calm exterior has always made people assume I am weak. But real power rarely belongs to the loud ones. It belongs to the silent one, the one who watches, the one who understands that emotion is the sharpest knife if you do not control it. Rachel stepped out of the bathroom, wrapped in a towel, hair still wet. I looked up and gave her a small smile as if nothing had happened. I asked a casual question about work. She answered. I watched the corners of her eyes, her mouth, her breathing, every smallest movement. There was no startle, no trace of panic. She was good. So good that her composure turned into an invisible blade cutting deeper and deeper into me. Rachel said she might be home late because of a gala prep meeting. I nodded and told her I would have dinner with Ben. That was the first lie I ever told her. It was light, neat, without a scratch. Just like the way she had lied to me for months without me noticing. I drove towards downtown. The city lights came on, the shadows of high-rises sliding across my windshield, long and cold. I parked on the corner opposite the Seabreeze Hotel. Under the yellow lights, Rachel walked into the lobby, tidy, confident, as if everything she did was right, beautiful, and belonged to a world I no longer stood in. I sat in the car, my hands locked around the steering wheel. The softer part of me screamed, wanting to jump into the elevator, rip open the door of that room, and force them to kneel in front of the truth. But another part of me, the part nobody ever sees, spoke up. Do not. Emotion is the enemy of strategy. If you want people to reveal themselves, you must let them believe they are still safe. I started the engine and pulled away, not because I was weak, but because from the moment I saw that message, I understood this was not just an affair. This was a test of spine, of mind, of the ability to walk through pain and still see the bigger picture. And I, the man who had always been seen as gentle and underestimated, would not collapse. I would stand up and let the truth burn on its own and reduce every mask to ash. That night, the sea still whispered outside the window. Inside me, a silent vow was born. I would not scream, I would not beg, I would be quiet. And then, one day, they would all realize the one they thought was the weakest was the one who held the real power. The next morning, Rachel looked at me and smiled as if nothing had happened. But in that moment, I heard a faint, cold crack somewhere deep in my chest. "Did you sleep well?" she asked, her voice as light as a breeze. I looked into her eyes and saw there a thin, delicate mist. I slept fine. I answered, forcing my voice to stay calm. How about you? Rachel lightly touched my shoulder, her smile soft. I am fine. I have to get to the office early today. The gala is close. Everything is piling up. Right, I nodded. Do your best. That was all. One simple word of encouragement, and a new layer of mask pulled down between us. For the next 2 weeks, I lived in two worlds. By day, I played the role of the perfect husband. I poured coffee for Rachel, asked about her work, pretended to show just the right amount of concern a good husband should have. One time, I asked casually, "You have been coming home late a lot. Is your team under a lot of pressure?" Rachel paused for a tiny beat, then smiled gently. "Yes, we have to meet donors all the time. They are all demanding people." She placed her hand on my wrist. "I know you worry, but everything is fine." Fine. That word passed through my ears like a cold cut. At night, the other version of me woke up. Miguel called. "I just sent you the photos." His voice was low and rough from too many cigarettes. She left the office around dusk. This time she went to a hotel at the harbor. That man was there too. "I saw them," I answered, eyes glued to the screen. "Keep going." I heard him sigh on the other end. "Are you holding up, Ethan?" I stayed quiet for a moment, then said slowly, "I am fine. I need the truth, not pity." Miguel understood. He did not say anything more. The photos appeared one by one. Rachel walking through the hotel hallway. Adrian a few steps behind, relaxed, confident, as if the world existed to serve him. I watched his hand resting on her back like he was touching something he owned. Another night, Miguel sent a video. Rachel stood in front of a mirror, fixing her hair, the corner of her lips curling slightly. I heard Miguel's voice through the phone. "If you want to stop—" "I am not stopping," I cut in. "I'm just getting started." One evening, while we were getting ready to go to dinner with my colleagues, Rachel stepped out in a blue dress I had never seen before. "What do you think?" She twirled, eyes full of quiet expectation. "It is beautiful," I answered honestly. "New?" Rachel chuckled softly. "No, I've had it for a long time. I just never had the chance to wear it." I smiled. In my head, I saw the photo Miguel had taken. Adrian, standing next to her in a luxury boutique, his hand on her waist, the receipt clearly visible. We arrived at the restaurant. The whole table laughed and talked. Rachel was charming, clever, guiding every conversation. My co-workers looked at her and then at me. "Ethan, you are really lucky," one of them said. "Your wife is the kind of woman anyone would want beside them." Rachel smiled, placing her hand over mine. "We understand each other," she said. "We are a team." I looked at that hand. For a moment, I heard another voice in my head, Adrian's voice, slick and arrogant. I pulled my hand back and said softly, "I need to step outside for a moment." Out on the terrace, the night wind was cold. Rachel followed me. "Ethan?" she asked quietly. "What is wrong? You're different today." "I'm just tired," I replied. "The project is intense." Rachel looked at me for a long time. "Are we okay?" she whispered. I looked deep into her eyes. "Whether we are okay or not depends on what you choose," I said. She froze. "What do you mean?" I did not answer. I let the silence speak. In that moment, the twist did not appear in her. It appeared in me. Rachel thought I was weak. Adrian thought I was insignificant. Both of them were wrong. In the quiet, I was stitching the truth together, taking back control they never believed I had. That night, when the bedroom lights were turned off, I heard myself whisper in the dark, "Their game is over. My story is the one that is about to begin." I realized things would not stop at betrayal the night Miguel called me on a gray, rainy evening. His voice was low and heavy, as if every word carried its own weight. "Ethan, I think you need to hear this right now." I stood by the window, watching the rain slide down the glass. The ocean wind howled outside, and inside me a dark premonition was taking shape. "I am listening," I said, my voice dropping. This is not just about your wife and Adrian anymore. There is something bigger, dirtier." Miguel paused for a beat. "A contact of mine at the Securities Commission sent over some documents. Adrian's company shows signs of financial manipulation." My chest tightened. "What do you mean?" "There is money disappearing. Reports have been altered and—" Miguel drew in a breath as if weighing his words. "This could be a large-scale fraud." I closed my eyes. A different kind of anger rose, not from hurt feelings, but from a violation of what is right. I whispered, "Keep talking. I have sent the files to you, but Ethan, be careful. This man is not just a cheater. He is dangerous." The call ended. I opened my laptop. The files appeared like bones sticking out from under fake skin. I saw signatures, figures, hidden flows of money. Everything was arranged perfectly, too perfectly, the kind of perfection that only someone who has seen the rot inside systems can recognize. Rachel walked into the room, her voice coming from behind me. "You are still awake?" I slid the window on the screen down, covering what had been burning in my eyes. "I still have work." "I thought we would go over the gala guest list tonight," she said quietly, a hint of expectation in her tone. "Another night," I replied without turning around. "I am not done." There was a brief silence. Then I heard her steps retreating, soft like a trail of smoke. I went back to reading, line after line. Money, lies, numbers, everything tied together like a cold mechanical beast. I understood that Adrian had not only stolen the woman I loved, he had shattered the trust of people who had placed their future in his hands, patients, investors, people who believed he was a symbol of hope. And then a thought flashed through me. If the truth about him came out, it would not just be a scandal about an affair, it would be a collapse. I called Miguel back. "I have one question," I said. "If what your friend suspects is real, what happens to Adrian?" Miguel answered slowly. "He loses everything." I looked out at the sea. The wind was strong. Waves crashed against rock. "Good," I said. "Then we keep going." Miguel fell silent for a few seconds. "What are you thinking, Ethan?" I replied with a deep, steady voice. "I'm not doing this out of jealousy. I'm doing it for justice and for the people he has deceived." On the other end, Miguel exhaled, like he was quietly respecting something in me. "I am on your side," he said. The next day I went to the office, but my mind was elsewhere. I sat under the white lights, surrounded by the sound of keyboards clacking, yet I felt like I was standing in the middle of a battlefield. People looked at me as usual, with the same perception of me as a quiet, unremarkable man. They had no idea I was holding a blade in my hand. At lunch, my coworker Daniel clapped my shoulder. "You okay? You look tired," he said. I gave a light smile. "Yes, just a lot of work." Daniel laughed. "You are always like this, always calm. I do not understand how you handle pressure and still look this relaxed." I looked straight into his eyes. "Being calm does not mean being weak," I said. "It just means I know exactly what I am doing." He chuckled, assuming it was a joke. It was not. That evening, Rachel came home late. She walked in with the night wind, her breath carrying a faint, unfamiliar perfume. "You are still up?" she asked. "Yes," I said. "I have things to think about." Rachel stepped closer, more slowly than usual. "Ethan, you have been different lately. I feel like you are hiding something from me." I watched her for a long moment, then asked in return, "What about you? Do you have anything you have not told me?" She bit her lip, her eyes flickering slightly, but instead of confessing, she turned away, avoiding my gaze. "I am tired. I want to sleep," she said. She walked off. That walk was not the walk of an innocent person. It was the walk of someone who was hiding. That night, the rain pounded against the windows, each drop like a cold note in a dark song. I sat in the dark, my thoughts crashing against each other like waves. A notification sounded, a message from Miguel. New documents, important. I immediately went to his office. On the table, folders were spread out like a paper battlefield. Miguel pointed at one section. "Look at this, Ethan." A name appeared. A name so familiar it made my heart freeze for a moment. "Rachel," I muttered. "No way." Miguel spoke slowly. "She is not just by Adrian's side emotionally. She signed off on some of the disputed documents. Not many, but enough to prove she knew." In my head, all sounds vanished. Only my heartbeat remained. Slow, clear, heavy. Miguel put a hand on my shoulder. "I am sorry," he said. I shook my head slightly. "No, thank you. The truth, no matter how cruel, is still worth knowing." I left his office near dawn. The street was empty, the lights stretching like tired yellow lines. I walked in silence, but inside me a storm was gathering. The story had changed color. The woman I had trusted most was now part of the web of darkness, not only betraying my heart, but betraying what is right. I stopped on the sidewalk and looked up at the dim sky. I understood this was no longer just me against Adrian. It was me against an entire world of lies. And this time, I was no longer the victim. I was the one holding the key to the ending. I opened the door and saw Adrian standing right in the shadows of my hallway. His eyes were as cold as steel, a thin smile stretching across his lips as if he already knew every thought in my head. In that moment, I understood he had not come just to talk. He had come to warn me, or to threaten me. "Ethan," he said in a low, steady voice, "we need to talk, right now." I stood tall, not stepping back. "You do not have the right to show up here," I said. Adrian took one step closer, his voice slow and sharp, each word cutting through the air like a blade. "When a man is trying to destroy everything I have built, I have the right to come see him." I stared straight into his eyes. "You mean the fake reports, the hidden money, the people you have deceived?" He hesitated for a fraction of a second, then let out a soft laugh. "Miguel talks too much." "I do not need Miguel," I replied. "I have the truth." The air tightened like a drawn bowstring. Rachel came out of the living room, her face draining of color when she saw Adrian. "What are you doing here?" she asked quietly, her voice trembling. Adrian glanced at her, his eyes cold and possessive. "I am here to stop this before it goes too far." I turned to Rachel. "You knew he would come, did you not?" She stayed silent, her eyes dodging mine. The answer did not need to be spoken for my chest to tighten. Adrian tilted his head with a faint smile. "Ethan, you are a smart man. You should know when to stop. You have no idea what you're up against." I stepped forward, my voice dropping. "You are wrong. It is you who has no idea who you are up against." The room sank into silence. Rachel instinctively stepped back. Adrian frowned. "Who do you think you are?" "I am not the loser skulking in the shadows you think I am," I said slowly. "You play with dirty numbers, but I hold a network of people you do not even know exists." He gave a contemptuous little laugh. "Are you trying to threaten me?" "No," I answered. "I am stating a fact." Rachel stared at me, her eyes wide. In that moment, she no longer looked at me as the gentle husband she thought she understood. She was looking at someone she had never truly known. Adrian clenched his jaw. "What do you want?" "I want you to face what you have done," I said. "Not just to me, but to everyone you have cheated." He looked at Rachel. "Have you told him everything?" She lowered her head and whispered, "I did not want it to go this far." "So, you knew," I said, my voice dropping lower. "Not just about the relationship, about those documents, too." Rachel's hands tightened, tears filling her eyes. "Ethan, I never meant for this to happen. I just got pulled in." "Whether you were pulled in or walked in willingly," I replied. It was still a choice. Adrian stepped closer, his tone turning icy. "Listen to me, Ethan. If you keep going, it will not just be me going down. Rachel, you, everyone." I stared back at him. "Are you threatening me?" He whispered, "No, I am offering you a chance." I laughed, the sound dry and hard. "I do not need a chance from someone like you. I chose my path the moment you stepped into my life." Adrian stayed quiet for a few seconds. Then something in his eyes shifted. The arrogance was still there, but underneath it was fear. In that instant, I understood. He was not just afraid of being exposed. He was afraid of me. Rachel's voice shook. "Adrian, go, please, do not do anything tonight." He looked at her for a long moment, then turned back to me. "You will regret this," he said. I answered softly, "Only liars fear the truth." He said nothing else. He turned away and disappeared into the night beyond the front step. The door closed. The house sank into a heavy silence. After a while, Rachel spoke. Her voice choked. "Ethan, I know I was wrong, but you have to believe me. I never meant to go against you." I breathed slowly. There are mistakes made by accident, and there are choices made on purpose. You belong to the second kind. Tears ran down her face. "What are you going to do?" I looked out the window. The city lights stretched out, cold and deep. "I'm going to do what is right, no matter who it hurts," she whispered. "Even me?" I closed my eyes for a moment. "Even you." A chasm opened between us, silent and bottomless. But beneath the pain, I felt something else. Resolve, clarity, and a strength no one had seen in me before. I knew the road ahead would be full of storms. But for the first time in my life, I was not afraid. Because I knew this time, I was not standing up only for myself. I was standing up for those who did not have the voice to defend themselves. And the man they had always underestimated had stepped out of the shadows. I got the call near midnight, and Miguel's voice cut through my chest like a blade. "Ethan, we have been betrayed." I froze in the dark kitchen, streetlights casting pale streaks across the window. The air felt thick and heavy, as if the house itself was holding its breath. "Why do you say that?" I asked, my voice rough. Miguel took a deep breath. "Someone tipped Adrian off. He is clearing an escape route. Offshore accounts are pumping money out. And there is one more thing. The insider who has been feeding us information is gone." I clenched the edge of the counter until my knuckles turned white. "You mean someone is playing us from behind the scenes?" "Not just one someone," Miguel said slowly. "Ethan, it is possible Rachel is not just a bystander. She might be a key link." An oppressive silence fell between us. It felt like the floor beneath me was splitting apart. I whispered, "Are you sure?" "Documents do not lie." His words hit my ear like cold metal. The next morning I met Claire, Adrian's wife, at a small cafe near the harbor, where the sea breeze carried the taste of salt and a distant sadness. She sat across from me, her eyes deep and still, but under that stillness were layers of turmoil. "Miguel told me," Claire said, her voice low. "Are you sure you want to keep going? This is not simple anymore." I looked her straight in the eye. "I do not have a way back." Claire sighed. "You are not what they think you are, Ethan. They see you as gentle, easy to manipulate, but I see something else." "Who am I in your eyes?" I asked. She gave a faint smile. "You are the one holding the torch in a room full of darkness." In that moment I realized something. It was not only me unmasking others. The world around me was changing shape too. "Claire," I said, "did you know how deep Rachel was involved?" She hesitated, then answered, "I saw her name on a few documents. Back then I told myself it was just administrative work. But now..." She did not need to finish. The truth finished the sentence on its own. That evening, when Rachel came home, I was waiting for her in the living room. The warm yellow light fell over the room, quiet enough that I could hear each beat of my own heart. She stopped when she saw me. "You are still up?" she asked, trying to sound calm. "We need to talk," I said. She swallowed. "About what?" "The documents," I replied. "The signatures, the approvals. You were not just on the sidelines, you knew." Rachel's face turned pale, her hands trembled slightly. "Ethan, I never wanted this," she whispered. "I thought if I helped a little, everything would blow over. I trusted him. I was wrong." "You were not just wrong," I said, my voice dropping. "You chose his side." She broke into tears. "You do not understand. You are always calm, always in control. I am not like you. I was afraid of losing everything. I was afraid of being left behind." I stared into her eyes. For the first time, I did not see the woman I once loved. I saw someone willing to trade away her soul to cling to a fake, glittering life. "Rachel," I said softly, "I have stayed silent for years. People thought I was gentle, thought I was weak, thought I would always bow my head. They were wrong." She whispered, "What are you going to do?" "I'm going to do what none of them expect," I said. She looked at me, fear rising in her eyes. "Ethan, you are not that kind of man." I closed my eyes briefly. "You never really knew what kind of man I am." The next morning, Miguel and I met at his old office, where dim lights, stale cigarette smoke, and the smell of paper filled the air. "You have a plan, do you not?" Miguel asked. I nodded. "We are not going to take Adrian down with emotion. We are going to take him down with the very system he thinks he controls." Miguel pressed his lips together. "Who do you want to bring in?" "The courts, the media, and the people he has crushed," I said. He studied me for a long moment, then spoke slowly. "Ethan, I used to think you were just a hurt man. Now I see you are dangerous in a very quiet way." I answered, "It is not because I enjoy revenge. It is because I refuse to let lies rule the world." Outside, gray clouds stretched across the sky like scars. I knew the road ahead would not just be stormy, it would be an earthquake. And when it hit, no one would keep their mask. I realized things had gone beyond our control when a strange man appeared at Miguel's office door. He did not knock. He just stood there, tall, in a black coat, with eyes as cold as stone. Miguel glanced at me, wary. I could feel the invisible pressure tightening the room, as if the very air knew some line had been crossed. The man spoke first, his voice low, even, emotionless. "Ethan Carter. Miguel Alvarez. You have gone too far." Miguel braced his hands on the desk. "Who are you?" The man smiled thinly. "I represent people who do not want this stirred up any further." I stared at him. "And who are those people?" He did not answer. He simply took one more step, just enough to make the room feel smaller. Miguel whispered, "Ethan, be careful." I asked slowly, "What do you want?" He replied, each word heavy as lead, "Stop, burn the files, forget everything, and you will keep your peaceful life." Miguel let out a dry laugh. "And if not?" The man looked only at me, not at Miguel. "If not, there are things you will lose. Not money, not reputation, people." My heart clenched. I knew exactly who he meant. "Rachel," he went on. "She is in too deep already. If she falls, she will never get back up." Miguel's anger broke through. "You dragged her in, and now you use her to threaten him?" The man tilted his head. "No one was dragged. Every choice has a signature." Then he looked at me again. "You think you are in control, but in truth, you are just a variable the system has not yet erased." I stayed silent for a few seconds, then stepped toward him. "I have been underestimated my entire life," I said softly, like a thin blade. "They thought I was weak, thought I was mute, thought I would accept anything. They were wrong." His expression changed. The ease vanished. In its place was caution. "I am not a variable," I continued. "I am a condition. And this time the equation will not favor you." The room fell still. After a long pause, the man's mouth twitched into a half-smile. I have warned you. The choice is yours." He turned and walked away. His shadow disappeared down the dim hallway. The door closed. Miguel exhaled hard. This is not a simple exposure anymore. This is a war line. "I know," I said quietly. Miguel looked at me, his eyes mixing worry and respect. "Ethan, are you sure you can take this? These people do not just ruin lives, they erase traces." I smiled faintly. "Have you ever wondered why they are afraid of me?" Miguel frowned. "Because you have the files?" I shook my head. "Because I am not afraid of losing anything anymore." That afternoon I went to see Claire. We sat on the balcony of her apartment, the city stretching beneath us in the pale light of evening. The wind carried a hint of cold and unease. "They have already approached you, haven't they?" she asked. I nodded. Her hands tightened on the railing. "We are not just paying with emotion anymore. From now on, it is lives." I stared into the distance. "If I turn back now, it means I accept that men like him can walk over others and never be held accountable." Claire asked softly, "Are you looking for justice or for your own release?" I was silent for a long moment, then said, "Maybe both." Her voice gentled. "You're not weak, Ethan, but you are still human. Do not forget that." I turned to her and gave a slight smile. "Thank you for reminding me." The sky darkened, the city lights flickered on. We said nothing more, but in that silence something formed. Not despair, alliance. That night, when I got home, Rachel was sitting alone on the couch in the dark. She had not turned on the lights, her eyes were wet. "Ethan," she said quietly, "they came to see me." I stopped. Moonlight fell across her face. She was trembling. "They said, if everything collapses, I will be the first one they throw under the bus." Her voice broke. "I am so scared." I kept some distance between us. "Rachel, they threaten you because they know you are the weakest link." She whispered, "Are you going to save me?" I looked at her and saw a reflection of who I had once been. Someone who believed others would protect him, and found no one did. "I will protect what is right," I said. "If you choose to stand on the side of truth, I will not leave you alone." She burst into tears. "And if I am not brave enough?" I closed my eyes. "Then I have nothing left to say." The air grew heavier. Then Rachel whispered, fragile but firm, "I will talk. I will testify." In that moment, I understood this was no longer just my story. It was the moment the weak learned to stand, and the man they had underestimated had become the one leading them through the dark. I knew everything was about to explode when sirens wailed outside as I was sending the final batch of files to the federal attorney. Something cold crawled down my spine. Miguel called immediately after. His voice was rushed and broken, like he was running. "Ethan, Adrian just tried to run. They stopped him outside the city, but it is worse. Someone in the team sabotaged the case. Parts of the digital trail have been wiped." I tightened my grip on the phone. "Who?" Miguel's breath came heavy. "Someone you would never have suspected." That sentence squeezed my chest. Later that afternoon, I met Claire in the lobby of a temporary courthouse. The white lights made her face look strangely calm, but her eyes held a storm barely contained. "Have you heard?" she asked quietly. "I have," I said. "But I do not understand why the wiped data lines up exactly with the moment Adrian was stopped." Claire looked straight at me. "Ethan, it is possible he was not trying to escape. Someone might have been pushing him out to get rid of him." I paused. "You mean someone wanted him silenced before he could talk?" The air around us seemed to harden. Footsteps echoed behind us. Rachel. She walked toward us, pale, but her eyes were different from the night before. The fear was still there, but now there was something else, a fragile determination. "Ethan," she said softly, "I have something to say. I cannot wait any more." Claire and I exchanged a look, then nodded. We went into a small room behind the hallway, where a single lamp cast light on an old wooden table. Rachel sat down, fingers tightly interlaced. "It is not just Adrian," she whispered. "There is someone above him. Someone who never appears in the files but controls every flow of money. Adrian is just a mask." Miguel walked in with a new stack of data in his hands. He set it down firmly on the table. "I checked the transfer timelines again," he said. "One name appears indirectly through a shell company, and that person—" He stopped and looked at Claire. Claire asked, her voice almost steady, "Who is it?" Miguel sighed. His eyes were heavy. "Your father." The room fell into absolute silence. Claire did not speak for several seconds. She just closed her eyes, then gave a faint, heartbreaking smile. "I think I already knew," she said. "I just did not dare to call it by its name." Rachel lowered her head. "I am sorry, Claire," she whispered. Claire's gaze sharpened through the pain. "Do not apologize to me. Apologize to the people who trusted him." I spoke, slow and firm. "This changes everything. We are not up against one man anymore. We are facing a dynasty." Rachel's hands shook. "If this comes out, a lot of people will be dragged down." I looked at Rachel, then at Claire. "I am not fighting to drag people down. I am fighting so no one else has to be buried under them." Miguel nodded. "These files will let us take the case in a new direction. But Ethan, this step is not just risky. It is a blow to an entire system." Claire said softly, "If anyone must face justice first, I want it to be the man who taught me to believe in his lies." She lifted her head, eyes burning. "I will testify." I looked at her for a long moment and saw a woman who had been raised to stand quietly behind a velvet curtain finally step into the light. That evening, as we walked out of the courthouse, the sky was black and the wind howled like a warning. Rachel walked beside me. Her voice was low. "Do you regret this, Ethan? If you had stayed silent from the beginning, maybe things would not have gone this far." I stopped and looked toward the city glowing in the dark. "No," I said. "Silence is exactly what lets men like them grow." Rachel lowered her head. Her tears fell, but this time they were not just tears of weakness. They were the tears of someone waking up. Claire stood on the steps behind us, her profile outlined in the warm light. From that moment on, I knew we were no longer just broken people clawing our way back to justice. We had become the ones bending the arc of this story. In the middle of the storm closing in, I understood more clearly than ever. The one they thought was the smallest piece on the board had walked into the center of the game. I did not expect the hearing to start with a hit like that. The courtroom doors swung open, and the first person let in was not Adrian, not any of the men we had been fighting. It was him, Claire's father. Gray suit, neatly combed silver hair, a face so calm it was almost cold. He did not look at anyone, not at Claire, not at me. He just walked straight ahead, as if this was not his downfall but some important meeting he had planned. I heard Claire draw in a breath. It was not a shaky breath. It was the sound of something inside her finally breaking. The judge's voice rang out, slow and sharp. "We will begin." Miguel leaned toward me. "Ethan, are you ready?" "I've been ready for a long time," I said. Rachel was called first. She walked forward slowly, eyes fixed on the light above the stand. The fear had vanished. In its place was release. When she spoke, the whole room fell silent. "I used to think I was just a small link," she said. "I thought I had no choice. But the truth is, we were all being controlled. And I choose not to stay silent anymore." The opposing lawyer jumped up. "You realize you are incriminating yourself." Rachel pressed her lips together, then spoke clearly. "No. I am incriminating the people who turned silence into a tool of power." Claire's hands clenched, then she stood up. No one had called her name. She walked forward anyway. The judge paused. "You wish to speak?" Claire nodded. In that heartbeat, time seemed to compress. She began, "All my life I was taught to believe in the perfect image of a respectable family. I was taught to be quiet, to stand behind, to smile even when my soul was cracking." She paused, then turned to her father. "But today, I am not the silent daughter anymore." He lifted his head. In that brief exchange I saw what he feared. Not the law, the truth. Claire continued, her voice trembling but unbroken. "I love you, but I cannot cover for you. If I stay silent, I become part of the stain you created." He closed his eyes. The whole room seemed to freeze. Then Claire turned back to the judge. "I will testify," she said. Miguel bowed his head, exhaling in relief. Rachel wept, and for the first time since this war began, I felt my heart ease just a little. Then it was my turn. The opposing lawyer looked at me with that same old contempt. "Who do you think you are?" he sneered. "An outsider? A hurt husband pretending to be a hero? Do you understand the price of what you are doing?" I smiled slowly, calmly. "I do," I said, "and I still walked in here." "For justice," he shot back, "or for revenge?" I looked at Claire, then at Rachel, then at Miguel. "I am doing this for those who were seen as weak," I said quietly. "For the ones forced to bow. For the people men like you thought would never make you pay." The air thickened. I spoke softer, but my voice carried more weight. "I have been underestimated my whole life, but what no one saw was how my endurance turned into a kind of power." The judge's gavel struck. The ruling was handed down. The room did not erupt. No one cheered. Instead, a heavy silence fell. One chapter was closing, another was opening. As people filed out, Claire stood in the hallway light, her face softened by the yellow glow. "You did it, Ethan," she said quietly. I shook my head. "No, we did it." Rachel stepped closer, her voice tight but lighter. "I am not afraid anymore," she said. Miguel gave a tired smile. "In the end, justice does know how to smile," he murmured. Outside, the wind was strong. The city was lit up, but to me everything looked different, as if I were seeing it from a higher, deeper place. I understood then that this fight had never been just about bringing one man down. It was about reclaiming ourselves, reclaiming our voices, and reclaiming the belief that even the smallest people can bend the path of darkness. We stepped down from the courthouse steps together. No one spoke. But in that silence there was a promise that we would never return to the old shadows. If you have stayed with me until this moment, if you have felt anything in this journey, share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you want to keep walking with me through stories like this, do not forget to like this video and subscribe so we can meet again in the ones yet to come.